Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Camel City Chat. I'm John McPherson and I'm here with Lawren Desai. Lawren is the Executive Director, Goddess, what else? I mean, what other titles? Queen?
Curator.
Curator's another one on. I knew you had like that, but I mean, this is your baby, so I'm real excited about it. But we're here with Lawren, and she is the Queen of Aperture, and we're going to hear all about Aperture over this next episode. And I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Sure.
And can you believe the weather? It's phenomenal.
This breeze is really amazing.
Yeah, so well, it's nice, and I also kind of want to. I mean, you've done some cool steps that I think are neat with Aperture and how you're handling the public coming in. So we'll talk about all that stuff. But let's start out with question number one:
Okay.
Where are you from, and how long have you lived in Winston-Salem?
I was born in Charlotte, but
Okay.
moved here when I was 6 months and have been. I mean, I grew up here.
Right.
I left for college and a couple years after, and then I came back to graduate school at Wake and have stayed since.
All right. So now, where'd you go to high school here?
I went to Reynolds.
Okay, you went to Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then college.
College, I went to University of Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right.
Wanted to go to a lot bigger city than Winston.
Okay, I understand. But we still are the largest little city in the world, right?
Yeah.
And then, so graduate school at Wake, and then you come back to Winston, and you know, I don't remember you opening Aperture up the first day you were back. So what'd you do?
So I got my MBA at Wake, and
Right.
after that I just got a traditional MBA job in finance
Right.
with a company in Greensboro.
Okay.
I lived here because
Right.
if you're from Winston, you don't want to move to Greensboro. So I commuted to Greensboro from here for a couple years.
Interesting you say that. That is a common thing,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's a thing.
Yeah, I think it's a thing. You know, we'll go visit Greensboro for a nightclub occasionally, or you know, maybe do the home and home now with the baseball stadium. But yeah, it's interesting that people.
I think it works both ways.
I know. I would
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. So you're married. You got a couple kids. You got one kid.
One kid.
Okay. All right.
Aperture's my second child.
Huh? You're what?
Oh, Aperture's
Aperture's
my
your
second
second child?
child.
Yes, right. I'll tell you honestly, as I told you, I've been to different things at Aperture, and I'm really excited to learn more about it because you've been. How long have you been here now? It's been.
Since 2010.
Okay. All
It's
right.
hard to do the math with the pandemic happening.
Right.
Like,
So
I
it's
like-
11 years sometime this year, right? Yeah. And do you? The next question that I always ask people is where's your favorite place to eat in Winston-Salem?
It's hard.
You can
I
take the political thing if
think-
you want to. There's so many great places,
Well,
and I'm
there
going to
are.
say, yeah,
I think I have two. Can
Okay.
I say two?
yeah. You're welcome to say how
I
many you
think
want to.
West End Cafe, just from growing up here and remembering when it was tiny and then moved. and-
Curry chicken salad,
Uh-huh.
phenomenal, love it,
Yeah.
right?
And then I love Mission Pizza a lot.
Mission
I
Pizza.
think that is really
He
elevated.
does a
the
great
food
job.
scene.
He
Yeah.
really does, and he cares, and you know, he just. I think what I love is when someone like you or like him loves Winston, and that's why we do the show, is to introduce people that don't know. I'd never met Sheriff Kimbrough, and I've got friends that are in California that are like, man, that's a cool sheriff, and stuff
Yeah.
like that, just from their friends, and they're nice enough to watch. And so it's neat to learn more about who you are and why you started this and all that, and that's why we do it. So, but yeah, no, Mission Pizza, and and that Jeffrey Adams place next door is okay too, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's got a whole little empire now.
Yeah, he
and
does.
They're all fantastic. I mean,
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a great neighbor. He's very supportive of Aperture.
So actually, Adam's going to be the next guest, and
Oh,
we have
great.
breaking news on that episode.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Cool.
So we're going to have him on next, and then we've got another guest that we're working with to schedule for next week. And so the third question is you have a daughter, obviously married. So what do you guys do for fun? What's
Actually, I
your
have
favorite
a
thing?
son.
You have a son. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Sure.
sorry. Yeah. I have the daughter. Okay.
So I don't know. Our son is almost 14, and he's definitely a teenager now, and doesn't.
So does he
doesn't
play
think
video
we're
games all the
cool.
time, or
Yes,
does-
he does
okay.
play video games. Although he does like to watch films.
Okay.
Just he doesn't.
Yeah,
appreciate-
that would be the dagger to the heart if he didn't like films, right?
They're not the film. Like he doesn't appreciate the films we show quite
Right.
yet. But maybe one day.
Right. And so, what do you guys like to do? I mean, obviously, one is you better come to Aperture, and then what's another?
So we love to travel.
Okay.
I think because I live in, I grew up in Winston, and I stayed. I like to be able to go to other places too.
So I would ask you the question of you get two here. Favorite in the U.S., favorite out of the U.S.
Oh goodness. Favorite in the U.S. I guess I'm a big national park person.
That was going to be one. So
I can't.
Pacific Coast Highway, and then anything like Yosemite or the Tetons or stuff like that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, we drove cross country last summer in the
Okay.
middle of the pandemic and stopped at Yellowstone, and that was quite spectacular.
Right, and then what about out of the country?
That's really tough. I will say we went to Iceland this summer,
How was Iceland?
and Iceland was not really on my list. Like
Right.
but it was a really great place to go and be outside this year. So
Because Iceland is green and Greenland is ice.
yeah,
That's what
Iceland was amazing.
Yeah, and I've heard that, so that's really
And
cool.
the food was really good, and
Have you been to the Cinque Terre in Italy?
no.
Okay, that's.
But I want to. We binge watched Stanley Tucci's new show
Okay,
on Netflix, which is all about food in Italy.
Right.
And he does a whole episode.
right. So
there.
we discovered him through Rick Steves, and and I was over there, and then all of a sudden I'm like, when we got married, we checked it out, but love that place. Like if I called my wife and said, hey, we're going to Cinque Terre, she would start packing before I got home.
Yeah, Italy's on our soon to visit. Hopefully list.
You will love it.
Yeah.
You'll love it. All right, so kind of gotten that stuff out of the way. You're working a corporate job, and then where did this love of movies come from? Because obviously you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't love it.
Yeah. So in between college and coming back here, I went out to LA for a year, and because I had interest in film. I didn't study it in college, but I sort of was like I was going to take a year off before I figured things out, and just moved to LA. Took some classes, worked on some indie films, worked in, had internships on studio lots, just did whatever I could do.
Right.
And so that's really where the interest.
Okay.
But it was really hard. I toyed with the idea of going to film school.
Right.
But I couldn't make that commitment.
Right. Yeah, I have a buddy of mine that did the lighting design at UCLA, and they say no one ever graduates because they hire him. And he actually did graduate and does design for like corporate stuff, and it's such a challenging market to get into, and once you're into it, you work all the time.
Yeah. So I kind of put that on hold, but I always wanted to go back to school.
Right.
And so getting an MBA sort of seemed like a broad thing to do, and that I could maybe go in any direction. But when I got pregnant when I had my job in Greensboro,
Right.
and after our son was born, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do that anymore,
Right.
and so I stayed home for a while, and then I got stir crazy, and was like, that's not really for me. I need to figure something out. And that's the time I wrote the business plan for Aperture.
So you write a business plan, and then do you do investors? Because this is a great opportunity for people to learn about how someone got started.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So we created an LLC. So we
Right.
had a group of 8 members
Right.
that helped. So that was part of it, and then I personally took out a giant loan
Right.
to do the other part.
Right. And then, and I think you're okay with this. You have the same wonderful thing that I do, is you have parents that care and help out. And my dad is, I'm building some now, and he's like, oh, just tell me what you need, and then you pay me back and pay me some interest. And my understanding is your dad has been some helpful too, right?
Yeah, well, my dad's an architect, so
Right.
When we were thinking about spaces,
Right.
I knew it had to be downtown. I've
Right.
always been about downtown, and architects just have the ability to tell you when you can't see what a space can be. So he could draw plans for this place that was at the time an engineering firm.
Right.
It was doesn't look anything like it does now. So that was great, and my parents have put over the years a lot of sweat equity into Aperture.
Yeah. And we're lucky to have that.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's one of those things where, as I told you, I met your dad when I was out at Louisville, and then I had a situation where I took some bad advice and needed basically an architect, and he got me help and got me out of, hey, I had to go before the city and get this plan done, and so yeah, I always love it when someone has good parents, and so that's cool that you have. And,
Yes, very lucky.
But as much as your parents have been great, you still took this huge risk. And did you ever think it would have turned out to be what it is now?
I think I didn't stop to think. Once we said we were doing it, and I had the team, the LLC, everything happened really fast. We were open. I think I announced in the summer of 2009, and there was like an article in the journal, and I'm standing out front. And then we were open by January of 2010. So like the ball just kept rolling, and people were excited, and I didn't have time to stop and think about like 10 years later, what's it gonna look like?
And so when you, all right, so you basically, you come in here, as you said, investors and giant loan. You take this place, you blow it out and turn it into some movie theaters. I mean, how many do you have now? 3 or 4?
We have 4,
Okay,
but
yeah.
back then it was just the 2.
Just the 2, right?
Yeah.
And was this originally a theater at one point downtown? It wasn't?
No, the theater was at Stevens Center.
The Stevens Center, right? Okay, and so, but the floor is sloped.
No, it's not sloped.
It's not. I always thought it was sloped backwards for some
This
reason.
originally was Montaldo's.
Okay. Now downstairs is it sloped?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Because I've seen, you know, obviously Walking Dead here. I came and saw Blue is the Warmest Color here,
Yeah.
and seen some other stuff here, and it's just, yeah, it's just a cool place.
Yeah, we couldn't, because it's an old building,
Right.
you know, we had to work within the parameters of
Right.
the space and build the theaters into the space.
So what was your first movie? Do you remember?
That we showed here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 3 of them. It was A Town Called Panic, which was an animated, like,
Right.
stop motion,
Right.
really fun. New York, I Love You, which was a series of, like, shorts about New York.
Okay.
And then the 3rd was An Education with Carey
Right.
Mulligan.
Okay. And so that the love from being in LA, I mean, you don't just pick up the phone one day and say, "Hey, I'm gonna own a movie theater." I mean, there's a lot of stuff to go through it. So what do you have to do to open a movie theater?
That was all stuff I just learned. I
Right.
mean, you have to, obviously I had, the construction was a huge
Right.
part. I'd never managed a construction
Right.
project before. And then figuring out how to how to get films.
Right.
How to like the whole licensing, how the economics works, all the, you know, stuff for the concession.
Right.
What to sell. I mean,
Right.
getting your ABC license. I mean, there was all just, I just learned it all.
Right.
And did it.
Yeah. And now, you know, you're a pro at it. All right. So we so during the first year, obviously, or let's just get up to, you know, from when you announced to when you actually did it. What do you think, the first day, what do you think your biggest challenges were?
I think, I don't know, back then there weren't as many challenges. Like, we were really lucky back then. If you remember, it was 2010, like Facebook was free.
Right.
Like, we could put stuff on Facebook and everybody would see it, and we were
Right.
able to build an audience. We, you know, from the time we announced to open, we gathered email addresses, we went out there, so
Right.
that when we opened, we had an audience that was ready,
Right.
and we just kept growing the audience. And I had to prove, in order to get better and better films from, you know, more studios, I had to prove, like, that we had an audience.
Right.
There was a time where, you know, I had to present and keep saying, no, we'll play this film, people will come, and now, I mean, it's 10 years.
It's a different switch, isn't it, when they call and go, "Could you please show it? Could you please show it?" Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you have 4 theaters, and what's your seating capacity in them, or?
the 2 upstairs are 80,
Right.
and then there's a 45 and a small 21.
And a small 21. Okay, cool. So we've gotten our first day. We've shown our first film. Were you pleased with that initial turnout and things like that? And
Yeah, there were definitely kinks, of course,
Right.
like figuring
popcorn machine didn't work or
systems
something like that.
and- Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but I think people were just ready
Right.
and they were patient. And
It's just it's so cool that you invested in downtown Winston like this, and you know, as I've talked about a couple times on the channel, you know, when we used to deliver books and magazines down here, there was Winston News over near the pawn shop that was adult stuff, and then you had Rainbow down there that was in the house before it moved to the big house, and
Right.
before it moved over to there, and you know, to take a risk on downtown Winston. You know, obviously at that point there had already been a turn, but it wasn't like it is now.
no, it's definitely, I mean, at that time, Melon Mushroom on our block was,
Right.
there was a Quiznos across the street.
Was Noma there?
Noma Noma might have just opened.
Yeah,
There was
I
an
think-
Indian restaurant before that, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, but between a lot of the other stuff that you see now is not here.
And so, I mean, that first year, I guess I will also ask kind of like, what are your challenges? You know, what just continuing to get the movies and things like that? Or
Yeah, and just to build an audience and, you know, staffing and figuring out
managing
how to
people's
manage
fun, isn't
people. I mean, that's always something.
Yeah.
But
it? Okay. Well, I want to ask you, a real in-depth question, but it really doesn't apply to your theater. So, why is movie popcorn so expensive? All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get more into what's going on with Aperture. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Again, I'm John McPherson, and this is Lawren Desai with Aperture, and we're talking about Aperture and Lawren and her love of Winston-Salem, of course, and this cool building that's right here behind us. And I appreciate, again, you doing this. And the love of movies is something that, I like things, but I don't, build a whole business around it. Like, I've got a buddy of mine that loves baseball cards and stuff, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to open a ball card shop, which he's doing. But, this is a huge undertaking. So after, you're out, after year one, and again, I still one day want to know why the chains charge so much for popcorn. But with Aperture, do you have like a company that books the movies for you? Do you select the movies? How do the movies get here and all that?
Yeah, so I'll back up to why I didn't go to film school. Is I think I think that would have precluded me from seeing the number of films, because I would be making just like one film, and I love so many different films so that was like being in the exhibition industry was a way to be involved, but in a different way, in the way that I really appreciate it.
And is it also seeing too much behind the curtain? Like The Wizard, and it's like, you see too much of it and maybe not have the love as much of
I don't know. I think that working on films makes you appreciate all the work that does go into all the components, all the people that work on a film, all the art that is in film. So I'm really glad I had that, and I think it's helpful when I look at films to bring to Aperture. So half of my title is Executive Director and Curator, because I program everything that we screen. So if I haven't seen it, I've just done research, and I've
Right. If someone we'll take Stabler. If you've shown 2 or 3 of Stabler's films, if he's got another one coming out, you're going to show probably Stabler's films. But so you're getting. What is a week at your home? This has got to be crazy.
Well, like yesterday, I screened a film in the afternoon. I have to balance.
Right.
Because that's 2 hours I can't be doing something else, maybe critical. So sometimes I'll be multitasking when I'm watching films, just because I don't have enough time. But I go to festivals, so I go to Toronto and I go to Sundance, and maybe another festival every year, and those are opportunities to knock out like 20 to 30 films. Right,
because once you're out of town, you just
when I'm out, I don't do anything else.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course everyone's like, oh, I'd love that job. After a while, it probably gets a little interesting.
I don't know. Being able to be around movies all the time, I just don't know that for me, I think it's the coolest job.
Right, yeah, I wholeheartedly
won't ever
agree.
take it for granted.
So now do you, so in a week, so we're filming today, but let's go back to Sunday. Obviously you have a teenager now, and I've got a 7-year-old, and she's starting to not really care that I'm at the house. I'll get the, hey Dad, and then where'd she go? So you obviously have time to do that. How many movies do you think you watch in a week?
It depends on the week. So and it depends on how far I've programmed out films. So there'll become the point where I'm like, oh, I need to figure out what we're doing in October or November, and so then I will tend to concentrate and watch a couple at a time over the week, and then some weeks I might go the whole week without watching something. Okay.
So now then, is there a season? Obviously, we've got sports have a season. Is there a season when you're really working and bearing down on your job because that's when certain films are released, or is it an annual thing?
It's all year.
Okay.
Cinema's never closed, so we always have to be.
You can
we
see.
We show over.
You guys can't see my eyes. She's looking at me, and I'm like, she can see. I'm processing what do you do? You're watching movies all the time.
We show over 200 films a year.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
So you pick. All right. So we're getting. We've just started September, right? So, how many films will you show this month?
Tomorrow we've got 6 films on screen. So,
Now, you said you have 4 theaters,
Yeah.
but you're going to show 6 films.
so we'll share them sometimes.
And how do you decide? This is blowing my
I've
mind,
been doing
Lawren.
this for 11. Like
It's blowing my mind.
you just learn things. You
Right.
figure out, and also you look at how sometimes we'll start to share films after they've played a couple weeks.
Right.
And
So, when are we open?
so we were before the pandemic. We were open every day.
Okay.
We never closed. Holidays, all the time.
Right.
Now, when we reopen in May, we're only open Wednesday through Sunday.
So you're open Wednesday through Sunday, and our earliest show is probably on Sunday, right?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday we have. Sunday we have at 12 o'clock.
Okay,
around
12 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, so Wednesday night, on a Wednesday night tonight, let's say you're open, what,
What's
7?
today's Thursday.
Oh, let's see. You're right. So,
So we usually
holy cow,
have
I'll see you tomorrow then if it's Wednesday. No. All right, so today's Thursday, so you open tonight at what time?
our first screening is usually around 5:30. We kind of don't. I mean, if typically movies used to have like 7 and 9 p.m.
Right.
But from the beginning we thought since we're downtown we wanted to work the time so that you could have dinner before or
Holy cow,
after.
yeah.
So we kind of shifted it. So we usually have like a 5:30 or 6, and then an 8 and 8:30.
So 5:30, so I get off work across the street, or whatever that is. Oh, that's someone crossing. 5:30, I come in, I watch the movie, and then I can meet someone for dinner usually around 7 or 7:30.
Yeah,
That's
the whole
perfect.
idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the idea of dinner and a movie, and that's what makes coming downtown so much more special than going
Right.
to a theater with just a parking lot and you can't do anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, that's when you go to a theater that you're saying just a parking lot. I mean, basically you're pulling in, you're grabbing some food, you're not talking to your friends or anything. Here you're outside, we're sitting, this is your patio, right? We're sitting here, we might have gotten a drink outside, inside, come out here, we're having a drink before we go in, basically it's an event. And what are the movies that I could see, let's say, tonight?
Tonight you can see Candyman, which is right behind you, and
I'm not looking at that. Is it the same actor that was in the first one?
No.
Okay, that man scares me.
Yeah, just don't say it 5 times.
Yeah, no. And what was the name of that movie again?
I'm not gonna say it. That was
All
the
right.
one time.
All right, so that movie.
And Coda, which is a phenomenal movie. I encourage everybody to see it. It's
Right.
a movie. CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults.
Okay.
So it's about a daughter whose entire family is deaf.
And that's starring Marley.
Madeline.
Yeah, I've seen some previews of that. That looks cool.
It's really
Because she can
great.
sing, and no one knows it.
And they can't hear her.
Yeah.
And they can't.
I saw. That's cool. All right, and then what else?
Respect, the biopic about Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, right?
Yes, and then a Chilean film called Emma.
Emma. Okay, I don't know that one.
It's the same director that people will know because he's directing Spencer,
Right.
the Diana Spencer film with Kristen Stewart that's just got promoted.
Okay.
So
And for everyone listening, that looks like it's the fire, maybe the fire alarm over at Cycle Bar. It doesn't look like anything's happening, but that's an alarm. So.
hopefully it don't
Are we
turn on.
okay? Yeah. No, I just asked. So, and I'm asking if they can still hear us. So then the next thing is, I guess I still cannot get. I mean, so then what do you call a broker and buy the films or rent the films? Do you have to call the individual people? How do you do it?
So each film is distributed. So there's a distributor. So
Right.
there's like dozens of them.
Right.
But I have what's called a booking agent. So he's my middle person between me getting the film and working with the distributor. So
Right.
I'll say, we have constant conversations. I'll say, I want to play this film,
Right.
and we'll figure out like when to play it, and we work together building our calendar, and then he'll negotiate with the distributor.
Right. And so, I mean, you tell me how. So, if I go to like the mall to go to the theater, which the mall doesn't have theater, but if I go to the mall to go to a theater, that's what do you call that? Because in construction you call that a big box or something like that. So, I mean, you're not a mom and pop, so I wouldn't say that. So what's the difference between the two? And then how are you seeing, if you want to show the new Star Wars movie, do they not allow you to show it or what's, yeah?
So I call that a multiplex.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking
And
for.
we are an art house cinema.
An art house, okay.
So an art house means like we show more like indie documentary,
Okay.
world cinema. We're more focused on the community.
Right. And then what determines an indie?
So an independent film is generally made outside of the studio system, and the
Right.
studio system is the big like Warner Brothers,
Right.
Sony. So it's
Okay.
made outside of that structure that's always
Okay.
existed, and it's financed. Each film is financed differently.
Right. Okay. All right. It's interesting because, as I said, I don't know any of this stuff, and that's what I wanted to learn, and that's why I called you. So it's 2010. You've opened up this for-profit theater, but at the same time, you are a very caring soul, and I know. I mean, it's what they say: no one cares about how much you know until they know how much you care. So I know that you know a lot because you care a lot, and so I guess the next thing would be you've made a transition. So when did this happen?
So we transitioned to become a nonprofit starting the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
So all of 2016, I had to figure out how you take something that
Right.
already exists as an LLC and how you make that happen.
And why would you become a nonprofit?
Because just the economics of operating a cinema
Right.
are really challenging.
Okay.
And personally, it was just a lot.
Can you make money as an art house?
It's really hard.
It is, isn't it?
And after doing this for 6 years, it was really a struggle.
So you're burnout. You don't want to see your baby go anywhere. So you call in some help in a sense and are able to do what you want to do, which is, as always, has been to give back to the community. So,
And along the way, most art house cinemas in the U.S. are nonprofits.
Right.
So we were always sort of the outlier trying
Right.
to be a for-profit operating in that world and not
Right.
having access to grants and funding. And,
okay, so now that opens up a whole, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. Tell me the process, I guess, and then we'll take a break and then come back and talk about what the nonprofit does and all that kind of stuff.
the process of becoming a
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Remember, we only have about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, it was like a second job that 2016. I first worked with the community business law clinic at
Right.
Wake Forest.
Right.
Just to figure out how you actually legally do that. And
Right.
so we figured out sort of how to make that happen. And then it was, you have to write the 1023, which is the giant application to the IRS.
Right.
That's like a novel.
Right.
And then you have to get a board. So I was doing all that while just running Aperture.
Trying to make money in the theater
and
as
figuring
well.
out how to fundraise, which I have no background on that, but
Right.
it was like out of necessity.
Well, in 2010 you didn't know how to run a theater, so now in 2016 it's time to start something else that you didn't know how to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I had a goal. So the one thing when I wrote the business plan that I did not do was write an exit strategy into
Right.
the plan. And so I think that became really stressful trying to make Aperture like survive and sustainable. And I hadn't thought about that. And so turning nonprofit was a way to make, it was like the exit strategy I hadn't written in the plan,
Mm-hmm.
how to make sure Aperture could continue on.
Well, they're here to do something, so we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back in just a second and learn more about the nonprofit side of Aperture. We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. We're in front of Aperture out here. It's great. I might as well, there's one thing I was going to say. We're out here because we don't have to wear a mask. You did something, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that I don't want to be political about this. We're not trying to start an argument. We're not trying to start a boycott. We're not trying to start a cheerleading festival outside. It's just a simple thing. I don't understand why people are so worked up about this. The best video you can ever watch is Penn and Teller explain vaccination.
Huh.
Okay?
I'll have to check it
It's
out.
on YouTube. Just watch it. You will not have a problem after that. You made a decision that I am sure you have gotten some emails or different things like that about, and that decision was?
To require either vaccination or a COVID negative test to come see a film at Aperture.
So, I didn't know the COVID negative test because we would have done that out front here with the thing and then gone inside.
You have to go to an official.
Oh, come on. I would have let you do the test. I did it. So a COVID negative test. And have you gotten some people say stuff to you or no?
I guess less than I thought.
Right.
The general response has been really great. I think people like the idea of being able to know they're coming to a place because we are an indoor. The whole idea of a movie theater is being with other people.
If I want to come see the name behind me, yeah, I'll come do that. That's not what I mean. But I have a 7-year-old daughter, so she can't get the vaccination. So I have to be careful what I do and where I go. I flew to Chicago a few weeks ago, and when I flew to Chicago, I actually called infectious disease and asked, is it okay for me to go? What do you guys think? And they're like, wear your mask, do all this stuff, and that should you should be good. And of the group, everyone that went, no one got COVID. One guy did, though, but you know when he got COVID? When he fell asleep on the subway in Chicago, he was a little under the weather and had his mask off. And that's got to be when he was exposed, because the rest of the time we were all wearing masks. And it's just such an important step. And I'm sorry if I offend somebody. This is what I'm doing for my family because I have a child, and that's the decision we've made. But that's a bold step.
Well, I think we were shut down for 14 months, and the idea of getting, and it's really bad out there right now with the Delta variant, and the idea of, we now have a tool in which we can avoid, or at least try to avoid shutting down again, and that is to require when people come inside that they either be tested or that they be vaccinated. I mean, that's out there now, and we're not the only ones doing it. There are, lots of people in town, lots of other theaters around the country. Cities have mandated it. It's,
And I'm going to mention somebody. I think, do you know Keith Hicks?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So Keith, he and his husband are in out of town, someplace. I think Puerto Rico or something. And they keep posting on Facebook. And one thing that it's like, if they go anywhere, vaccination card, temperature check. Vaccination card, temperature check. And it's not that we're trying to take away anybody's rights. We're not trying to do any of that stuff. What we're trying to do is keep everybody healthy.
Right.
And so I'll get shamed for this, but I'm proud of you guys for doing it. I've got mine in my pocket. I'll actually show you this because this is something that I'm actually going to get some of, and it's whether you like it or not, it's around, but it's a card carrier.
Yeah, I just got a little laminated.
Yeah,
one
and it's
too.
it's nice, it's convenient, and it's.
But we'll accept it if you take a photo. Like, I just put mine in my phone as a photo. I mean, I think the more it becomes habit, the easier,
And I saw something yesterday. I think Apple is now doing where you don't even have to travel with your driver's license anymore. That some states are accepting it in an Apple in your Apple Wallet, which is kind of crazy. So
yeah, I don't want it. It makes me sad that people will see it and not want to come out of principle. I mean, the whole idea of a cinema is to bring people from all different walks of life. I mean, it's one of the most affordable art forms, so,
Well, you said something that reminded me. So before we go to nonprofit, I got to ask, all different walks of life, how freaking awesome was Walking Dead for you?
It was good, and then it got a little too big, and I was a little nervous about it.
You were nervous you're going to have zombies.
Well,
yeah, I mean, come on. Zombies are real. But no, I mean, so have you done it with any other
no,
television
because
show?
I think there's no great way to license television,
Right.
and we were just operating. We didn't charge admission. It was free. And then as the crowds got more and more, and especially when we became nonprofit, it's not our core mission, and so we didn't want to do anything that might sort of.
Well, but I mean, there's stuff I can do too, though. I mean, if I want to have a Super Bowl party here, I can rent the theater, can't I? And then you rent it from the nonprofit, and I mean, you can have let's watch my. Gosh, could you imagine somebody do this? Hey, everybody, it's my 15-year wedding anniversary. Let's go watch my wedding video. Oh my God, I would find.
Nobody's done that yet.
Yeah, I might walk in front of a car just to get a limp or something, so I could get out of that.
We have had one proposal here and one wedding here.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. Let's see. My phone's ringing, so I got to turn that off. Let's see. What about the nonprofit thing? So how did that all happen after you become the Why would you become the nonprofit?
Just access to fundraising. So grants.
Okay.
To individual donors, to sponsors, to just a whole. The economics of tickets and popcorn weren't covering all of our bills. So
So day one, Aperture for profit is how many employees, including yourself?
I mean, back in 2010,
Day one, Aperture.
there were 2 full-time. It was me and assistant manager, and everybody else. There might have been 8 to 10 other people, all
Okay.
part-time box office
All right.
production.
So then today, even after being closed down 14 months, about how many people do you have that you work with at Aperture?
So we're getting back our capacity, but we have 3 full-time,
Okay.
and then
So you're full time.
yes.
All right. And then you were saying Monique works with you?
Yeah, so we have a philanthropic. She's our philanthropic engagement, and then
So
we have
she's
a
the one
theater
that goes
manager.
out and says, "Hey, John, have you thought about donating to Aperture,
Yes.
right?" And then you got to have a grant writer, or is that
That's me.
that's you?
And I just spent all last week writing grants. That's another skill I taught
Lawren.
myself.
All right, so
We
do
have
you
a-
talk to your husband at all? Do you ever see
do.
him? Okay,
I do.
So it's
I
like,
can just be very productive,
Yeah.
and
so you grant write while you're watching movies, while you're making.
I can't multitask grant writing.
You want some Adderall? That's what you need to be taking. So just focus. But no, I could never do it either because I do seriously have what I always say ADSHD, which is attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. So it's watching a movie. I'm either watching a movie or I'm doing something else, or I'm doing both of them poorly. Just don't tell my wife I said that because she says I can't multitask, and I claim I can. So you're right. So what is a grant? Like, what would you write a grant for?
Like last week, I wrote 2 grants. I wrote one to the American Rescue Plan funding for Forsyth County. Was they got all the money from the rescue plan and they're granting it out. So I wrote a grant to show outdoor films in county parks.
Okay.
And then I wrote another grant to a foundation to, we want to launch a program where we're going to use the pre-show time, when people are sitting before
Right.
to show art, to find artists and promote their art on screen.
On screen?
Yeah.
Kind of like when you would do the old, here's our sponsors type of
So we're
things.
getting rid of all that. We
Okay.
want to really use all of our time to promote art.
Right.
So we're excited about that. So that, wrote a grant to try to help funding for that.
I mean, heck, you could do cooking show in there in a sense.
A
couldn't
live
you?
cooking show?
Yeah.
I guess you could.
Yeah, I mean, because you could put a camera down on it, show it up on the screen. I won't charge you for that. Call Mary.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary Haglund's been getting antsy on Facebook. If you've been watching, you can
I-
tell Mary's ready to cook something.
She's
so-
she's trying to figure out her next thing.
Yeah, you can already. I mean, I've got to call her because I wanted to ask her about somebody, but it's like, yeah, Mary's getting bored. Yeah, so, all right, so, but what are your focuses? Sustainability, I think, was, green. So tell me, what are the focuses or your mission statement basically now?
Well, it's hard because we're just trying to get back to where we were before we closed.
Right.
And that's the immediate goal.
Right. You got to have some money coming in the till.
Yeah. And we've been really lucky. We've got some shuttered venue operating grant funding, and that will help us sort of rehire people.
Because you guys weren't able to apply for like the PPP loans like we were.
No, we
Oh,
got
you were,
PPP.
even as a nonprofit?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Great.
But
Okay.
but you have to remember the first PPP back at the very beginning. We got that early on, and we had 8 weeks to spend. Like, we literally hired everybody back just for 8 weeks so that we could spend that money. Like, in the long run, it didn't really help us. It helped pay people for 8 weeks, but
Exactly
it
what I
was-
did. Even though they weren't coming into the office and working as much, I paid my staff, so that they could have their job and be, and
yeah,
be fruitful.
that was a very stressful time,
Right.
sort of the PPP hole.
Yeah. And so the goals of Aperture now as a nonprofit are what?
So sustainability is one of them,
Right.
to try to not, make our footprint on the world as small as it can be. So we compost a lot of our, concession.
So whatever I'm
items
getting,
and-
you're going to use probably beer in glass bottles rather than cups or things like that. But you do serve. Are you doing wine in small bottles now instead of the
No,
cups?
we still do. The cups are compostable.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So,
and the horrible, the horrible straw that we all hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I think only 10%. Like the candy right now is the only thing
Right.
we really can't. It's trash.
The paper, whatever comes in, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it is. They coat it
Right.
with something.
Okay.
We've learned so much about.
Yeah. See, that's the thing that
packaging.
people don't realize is like when I open 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid now, when you open a Christmas present, most of that stuff can't go in recycling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just if it's coated or things like that. I mean, it's trash, which is so sad. So sustainability.
Yeah,
we got
and
that.
then and in 2019 we launched our education program.
That's the one that I really want to hear about
And
because
we, the whole idea is serving the community more, especially the younger population, because that's the future of moviegoers, and we need to make them feel like they want to come to the cinema.
And the future of Winston-Salem. I mean, it's we got to get to the kids. I mean, as you and I both know, I mean, we're filming one day after what happened. It's so horrible. We've all known someone that was there, was around it, or may have been the victim, and it's just sad. And is there something that is there something that you all can do by having kids come and watch movies and learn more about this or that? And I've always known that. I mean, you guys. I mean, even when you were for profit, I think you were really always trying to help kids out. I know that's a long stretch from where we were, yesterday to that. But I mean, what could have changed?
I think films are just the best medium for to augment what teachers are doing in school.
Right.
Like you read a book like Romeo and Juliet, and then you can come see the film and connect to the book in a different way. And so film just does that for what you're learning in class. I think it also, nowadays, kids have access to make their own movies.
Right.
Much more than I did when I was a kid. And I think teaching them that they have the tool to tell stories, to sort of voice their frustrations, they can make films and they can distribute them and they can,
Yeah, I know that early on that, when in the beginning of River Run, you guys were involved and you were screening and they're doing some outdoor stuff now, and of course you're doing some different stuff. Do you do anything with School of the Arts, or do you guys, I mean, besides probably get the phone call that says, hey, can we shoot there because we need a movie theater? But,
that doesn't happen as often. They're not writing scripts about movie theaters.
I
wish they would write more.
I get 2 or 3 a year. It's like, can I borrow this vacant house? One was, can I use the dining room? And I'm like, oh, the people that are buying my dad's house are closing too soon, so no, we're not. You're not going to be able to do that or whatever. And so that's. But yeah, I wondered if do you ever have anybody from there come over?
We have a lot of our staff,
Right.
our students.
Okay, cool.
And that's always been the case. And I think in the long run, I'd love to have a more. It's not a better relationship, but
Symbiotic.
Yeah, like we've tried things over the year. Like a couple years, we screened their shorts.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
I do think there's ways for us to sort of promote film more to the community.
Right. Well, that's
we
what
have
I
a
want
new
to.
dean, so
That's what I want to talk about. If that's okay, when we come back, we're going to take a break. So I want to talk. I've got 2 questions I always ask you at the end. I want to talk about your marketing and different things you guys are doing moving forward. But before we go to break, I have something I want you to think about. My wife and I both had the flu when my daughter was about 2. We let her watch Snow White. I think that was it. I think it was Snow White. My daughter will not watch movies anymore. She was right in between us. We just put it on because it was Disney. So I want you to tell me what I need to do to get my daughter to watch movies. We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat after this break. Welcome back. We're out here talking, and the one you did give me a suggestion. This is Lawren with Aperture. I was talking about how my daughter really doesn't. I scared the Hades out of her, and you were saying maybe live action would be something. And so she struggles with reading a little bit, and so we've got her reading. And last night it was so cool. She had a book on tape, and she had a book, and so she's looking at the book while the ladies read, and she's running along, which is huge progress for my daughter, because she does struggle with reading, and she's so freaking smart, and she's a better conversationalist than me and talks more than me, so that scares you even more. And you didn't have to look at the camera and nod. And so then, but you know, I guess I want to talk about marketing, and then I want to talk about how people can get involved. I want to talk about where you see Winston going from where it's been when you know, like I said, I mean, bowling ball down 4th Street. No one ever would have even known if you did that at 5 o'clock at night because no one was here. And then the last one is the one that I prepped you up on, and that's, you know, what's Lawren want to be remembered for. So, well, I mean, obviously, you know, with all these things that you guys are doing, it's, you know, the goal is to get seats in the butts.
Yeah.
Or butts in the seats. And then, that was really good. But get butts in the seats, but then also get donors in too. So let's talk first about butts in the seats, because I think that sometimes might be easier than donors.
Yeah. Yeah, butts in seats. It's the movie industry is very cyclical, so like, or seasonal. So we'll have good seasons and bad seasons, and it's really easy to get people to come during award season. Right. Because there's films people know about and they want to see them.
And so you do that. You guys do, during award season, you guys do certain, like, and have done it for many years. Was it shorts? You do the shorts and stuff like that, or what all?
We do the Oscar-nominated shorts.
Right.
There's 3 programs, but we typically show over the course of the year at least, I'd say 5 to 7 of the film Best Picture nominees, and lots of, I mean, so we're showing those films, but it's just easier. A lot of them happen to come out between November and February, and so that is the prime, and also it's cold. That's the prime. Those are our best months of the year. They've always been our best months.
Right.
So it's the rest of the year that's the more challenging time.
All right. So I mean, we, you know, Smitty's Notes is a sponsor of our, and I know he loves you guys too. So I did the plug early for Smitty's Notes. You know, go to smittysnotes.com, and we're definitely going to have him promote this episode. And I mean, when you go to getting people in seats, I mean, obviously traditional is, you know, really newspaper or but I mean, are you doing like the Instagram and all those kind of things, and then?
Yeah, we don't have a large marketing budget for paid. Our marketing budget goes to our newsletter costs and our website, and everything else beyond that is hard to actually spend money on. So we really count on social media.
And you said website. Tell them the website.
ApertureCinema.com.
That's ApertureCinema.com.
You know, we're on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
I personally love Instagram, so that's where.
I'm getting ready to learn Instagram more. My wife's been on me real bad about that.
I think that's where we have the most connection. People respond, and it's more engaging, and you know.
Okay. And then, so you do the Oscars thing. Sometimes, you know, it's like you've done Rocky Horror before, right? Nope. Okay. Have you done like Wonderful Life or some of those other ones that
We've done some holiday films.
Okay.
We did Wonderful Life for a while. We've done Elf. We try to do something sort of in December.
One of the greatest holiday films of all time.
Yeah,
is Elf.
I love Elf.
All right. So what is? Oh, now you know it's coming now. What is your favorite film?
Oh my gosh.
I'll give you by genre if you want to. So I have a favorite comedy, and then I have a favorite film as well too. So what's
my favorite genre?
No, what's your favorite film?
I'm gonna always say Amelie.
Okay.
I'm always asked that, and I have, you know, Amelie's a great film. It came out when I was living in New York.
Is that the one with the young girl?
It's French.
It's French. And Amelie is a young lady with dark hair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I remember that, okay.
And I saw it at the Angelica, which is an art house cinema in New York. And it's like, I fell in love with the idea of a cinema like that. I mean, it was long time before I started Aperture, but that's always something I referred back to. Like, that's the kind of theater that I want Aperture to be like.
Right. And why the name Aperture and what is that?
So Aperture is part of a camera,
right?
That, you know, controls the light coming in, and so that was just, when we came up with the name, it was what we decided, and we worked with Elephant in the Room, a local company who specializes in.
Right.
They have a really great process for, you know, presenting names.
Right.
And so they gave us 10 choices, and Aperture, you know,
that was
stood
it.
out.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, like we could play with the f-stop and put the slash after the A and use it in all of our branding. And
that's where it came from, the f-stop. Now, as soon as you said that, I saw it, but I didn't know what it was before.
And starting with A and the slash always means that we're like at the top of the alphabet, you know, list of.
That's true. Kind of like the A Best Bug Company or AAA Pawn or, yeah, okay, I got you. Good. So then the next thing would be, okay, so that's one. Any other favorite films?
I can't narrow it down.
Mr.
I mean,
Smith Goes to Washington. Love that movie.
that's your.
Yeah, I think that'd probably have to be my favorite. I mean, then there's another one, but you know, I'll tell you that one off camera. It's a comedy and it is hilarious. But so, do you have you thought about doing anything with regards to you know what like your own like a little festival or things like that or whatever?
I can't say what we're doing now, but something.
You got something in the works?
Yeah, and I
You could
think
break
we're
it
gonna,
here. I told you next week they're going to break it.
I'm under embargo. I literally would get in trouble.
Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
Yeah, let us know when it
Hopefully
comes.
you'll know when it's announced.
Okay. Yeah. Well, of course we will. You let us know, and we'll do that. So, I want to get involved in Aperture. What do I do?
I mean, the easiest thing is to come see more films.
Right.
I mean,
But I mean, I love movies. So what do I do?
So
Or if I want to come see a bunch of films, do I buy? You got to pass?
So
or
we
what?
have memberships,
Okay.
and that is really like a benefit program. Like you pay for a membership and you get discounts every time you come.
Right.
So you can literally pay back your membership fairly quickly if you love films.
Right.
And then you can donate. So
Right.
the donations go to just our operating support.
Okay.
So you,
All right,
so
so
you can
what-
be
I mean,
one
do
or
we-
both.
So you do like an individual, family, or the different things?
We have those sort of basic
Benefactor
levels,
and-
and
right.
we have higher level memberships where you can literally pay more for free admission every time.
Okay. All right. And obviously go to aperturecinema.com. Reach out to Monique, and you can also rent the theaters, right? And so there are different costs for obviously different sizes.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot of we were lucky in the middle of the pandemic. I was really missing not having our own outdoor screen,
Right.
so I applied for a grant from
Right.
the Tourist Foundation, and we were awarded one to buy our own outdoor.
And so how, you're going to laugh at this, how big is your outdoor screen?
24 feet.
Okay. Mine's 200 inches.
No, we
I
had
think
we
I'm gonna
had
watch
to
a
get our
football game on it
trailer
tonight, yeah.
to carry this thing around.
That's
and everything.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really great.
That's cool.
It's been really wonderful. Like we have a screening tonight at Paul Senior Botanical Gardens.
That's right. Yeah, Brooke Cashin gave me some information on that. Yeah, yeah, that'll be fun. I hope you guys have a
And
good
next
time.
week we're doing something I'm super excited. We're working with Hispanic League because
Right.
it's their Fiesta time.
It's coming up. Yeah, right.
And we're showing a film about a soccer team on a soccer field in Watown. Like I think
That'd
the
be cool.
coolest thing. Yeah.
And those are cool things that are going to start happening.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, if you bundle that up, then you've got like a team, then people can rent you out to help them out too as well. Yeah, that's nice. All right, Lawren, you've been here a long time, and I mean, I know you're only like 20, but you've been here a long time. So when you were growing up in Winston, one of the things that you never did was come downtown after like 5 o'clock. And you've seen this happen, and you've seen where we are and where we're going and stuff. What do you see with Winston-Salem, where it's been, where it's going? Where do you want to see it go?
I think I want it to keep moving forward. I do think we've got a lot of development. I think we need to figure out how to get more jobs here.
I think with the pandemic and the work at home, I think you're going to see more people start to do things like maybe move back home closer to mom and dad or something like that. And when they move back home closer to mom and dad, then they're here.
That would be great.
And I think, it's interesting. I have some friends that work at the bank you mentioned a second ago. And I also have some, friends that work at other banks. And they're telling them, oh, you're coming in on October 1st. And it's like, no, just wait a couple more months and stuff like that. And I think it's going to, what my friend that my next door neighbor is doing is he now has it that he's got to create these centers. And when he has this center, so you may live in Charlotte, but Winston-Salem's your center, you have to come up to report to that center at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen more and more, and people are, we're seeing it everywhere. People are moving out, suburbs and things like that, It's what I do now, so that's, but it is interesting to see. But
It would be great for Winston-Salem to be a center.
It would be. And actually, because he's my next door neighbor, Winston-Salem is one of the centers for this bank, so that's cool. But where do you see Winston-Salem going, or what do you for the future? Anything?
I do hope that we can support the arts here more than we really do from a public funding standpoint. I mean, we are supposed to be the city of arts and innovation.
I was just going to say if you didn't say it.
We can be, and I think the arts do so much for communities, and we already have a historic, great art
First
scene.
Arts Council, all that kind of stuff, and
we need to promote that as a tourist destination.
I think Chad Nance was one of the first guests that said, "We're the city of arts and innovation. Put your money where your mouth is," and so that's got to be worked on. On our side of things, with being in real estate and starting to be involved, locally and nationally, we got to come up with affordable housing. We've got to, the statement that Craig Richardson, confirmed is if you're born poor in Winston-Salem, you possibly are going to die for. How do we do that? And I know you work with nonprofits. I think you've done something with Big Brothers Big Sisters in the past, or whatever, to have kids come watch movies or different things like that. And it's so cool that you do that. I appreciate what you do, and I was very excited. It was so funny because I was trying to get your number, and then I picked the thing up and went, "Oh my God, I have her mobile number," and I called you out of the blue, and you're like, "Hello?"
I usually don't answer my phone.
Hello? And especially, why would you answer a phone that, immediately it was going to be...
I don't know, you caught me at I was like, I'm going to answer this call.
It was perfect time, and it was going to be, I should have just said, "Hey, I was calling you about your car warranty."
Usually that is why I don't answer my phone.
Yeah, but so, I know you care, and I really know that you... Just as I said earlier, from knowing your dad during when this was going down, I know how much you put into this building, and you're never going to get it back out. Sacrifices that just can't. But you have created something that, a buddy of mine, Brant Godfrey, we've come down here for lunch and gone in and seen. You've created something that has touched everybody. And from a simple thing of seeing a movie in an art house in New York to, your love of it, I personally want to say thank you. And then I ask you the question, what do you want to be remembered for? And it doesn't have to be the end. It could be, as you said, an exit strategy. What do you
I think it's more, not necessarily that it's possible when you work hard and you build support and you do something that's good for the community, that it's not a scary thing, that you can make it happen. I want people to see that it's possible, and that you can change along the way, and you can adapt, and you can sort of
add another theater.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. This has been enlightening. I've enjoyed getting to learn more about Aperture. As I told you, I looked online, which is a great website, aperturecinema.com, and it was like, oh, I didn't know that, because I just know you as friends with Katie and different things like that, and Rince is your dad. We won't say you're his daughter, because you're doing better than him. I said that, all these different things, but never knew why you started it and all that stuff. So again, thanks.
Well, thanks.
Sure.
Always happy to talk about Aperture.
Yeah. All right. So check out aperturecinema.com and put a seat in a butt, right? Put a butt in a seat, and check out Smitty's notes too. And thank you to Lawren Desai for being here today, the curator and executive director of Aperture Cinema. We'll be back next week with more Camel City Chat.